Hi everybody, welcome to Hammergarten. Hammergarten is the channel dedicated to the sport of hammer throwing, specifically Lance Deal, four-time Olympian, Olympic silver medalist, world record holder in the indoor weight throw. Him and I, Adam Kriz, discuss the training process that we went through under our coach, Stuart Toger. Our goal is to convey our understanding of hammer throwing in a way that is useful to others. We really want you guys, everybody, to be a part of the conversation. If you have questions or comments or want to help contribute input, please email us at hammergardenusa@gmail.com. It's Hammergarten spelled like kindergarten. So it's HAMMERGARTEN USA@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We want this to be as much of a conversation as possible. Our discussion today, Lance and I try to break down a whole year's worth of training in about an hour. Matter of fact, I think we do a pretty good job of it. It's not even so much trying. We hope you enjoy it. Hopefully it's useful to you guys. If you have questions, send us an email. I want to give a couple of shout outs. Thank you to the Ray Gordon Band. They're a great local blues band here in the Portland area. We use their song Mississippi Mud for our intro, so thank you to them. And thank you to our good friend Koji Murafushi, wonderful hammer thrower. He's also a fantastic artist. He did the artwork for the intro, so that was pretty fun. Anyway, hope you love the episode. Like and subscribe. I think that's the thing you're supposed to do on YouTube. We'd appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.
There might be a...
I like your idea of just walking through the workouts for the
year.
That's why I wore my favorite sweatshirt, because if we're going to be working out, we might as well do the business.
Yeah, no, and I think that's probably the best place to start.
Well, we might as well let's talk about some objective, concrete stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
And so there's a couple different ways we can do it. And some of it's kind of like technical, like how are we going to show people the training? I have some PowerPoints that I could bring up. That might not be perfect. I also got a pad and paper in my iPad, and I could just try to switch and have my iPad present, and I just draw stuff out. But then you kind of can't see my face. And so I'm
not sure. Let's talk for a little while. Let's do an outline. Let's run through quickly.
Okay.
Do the big part, do the macro, and then we'll figure out whether we need to do that.
Okay.
Because the beautiful thing about our training program was it can be described in 30 minutes. It was so simple that the nuts and bolts of the whole thing were really easy. The hard part was every day having a crazy Scotsman screaming at you.
Right. And not only could it be explained in 30 minutes, is I would have the whole year's training memorized in 30 minutes. It was that simple. And I think that was a huge advantage for me to know exactly what my workouts were going to be for the rest of the year. And I think they gave me so much confidence when it came to competing. And I'm not exactly sure why, but I think I have to figure things out, and I kind of have to kind of know what's going on. And there's something about how the training being that simple. And then about the crazy Scotsman. So Stuart even said, you adapt to the things that vary. The changes in the training is where you adapt. So we kept lifting boring and basically the same for the whole year. And the crazy Scotsman came in and changed like the training with the hammers every day. Like we weren't like, I don't think we ever quite were sure what was coming for us as far as throwing the hammer goes. And that's where all the variation was. And that's where we adapted.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah.
So, okay. So well, I guess the beginning, I think that I always talk a lot about, and I don't know if it's right or not. So if you're out there watching and I'm wrong about chaos theory, just.
We're going to start with something concrete and real, and you're going chaos theory out of the gate.
Well, so here's the thing. So every little part is like every big part, right? So every part of the workout, well, I don't know, maybe not, but so the warm-up, as an example, the warm-up is, well, it's all constant all year, with a few little changes, right? So we run.
Yeah, let's just say, so first day of training, for the college schedule, it was October. It was like first week in October, right? Let's say it's Monday, first Monday in October. Yeah, go for it. What did we do?
Well, what we did was, we ran 800 meters. Well, kind of jogged 800 meters, and then we did skips. Did some. I'm going to say them all, and then we'll go back. So then we did skips, and then we did the warm up, which as a coach I called it the full toger. And I would vary a little bit. He rarely did. We did sometimes when we were out in the park and there was no dry space to be on the ground. So we just do the stuff where you didn't have to roll around on the ground. And I called it the vertical toger. And then we were ready to do whatever we're going to do. And early on, I can't remember, did we do circuits before we started throwing? Or did we just start doing drills and throws at the same time as we started the circuits?
My senior year with you, we started doing circuits. And part of that, I think NCAA rules had kind of changed where, we could only meet like 3 days a week for, the time was so limited there for like the first 4 weeks or so.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah.
And so we just did the circuits there for, I think, 2 weeks or something.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
And to me, that made sense actually as a coach.
Right.
And then, so we did that, say we do that for 2 weeks, and we did circuits for 6 weeks. And the goal of circuits, and we'll go back and fill in all the specifics. The goal of circuits was just to get fit. And the concrete goal was to do 3 sets of 10 in 45 minutes. And that was for the old fat hammer throwers. I found out with the collegiate throwers, especially if you have javelin throwers, that's not that hard. 3 sets of 10 in 45 minutes is kind of easy.
It was really hard for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have good strength to body weight ratio, or if you don't have good upper body strength, it's really hard.
Yeah. And are we going to go back through and talk about each one of these things, or should we kind of outline? Okay. So circuit training up until, and you start in October, and there's a Thanksgiving break there. And so you're doing circuit training up until Thanksgiving break. That's
right. That's exactly right. And then you take a little break, and then you start lifting. And you do 3 sets of 8 until Christmas.
Yep.
We started in the way back, we did 6 weeks hard and 1 week easy. And we gradually, every year we'd pair that back, and we ended up at 3 hard, 1 easy.
Right.
In the weights.
That three weeks progressive increase in the load. And then the 4th week, and Stuart always said, you cut your workload in half.
Right.
For that 4th week.
Right. And so what that meant to us, and I think maybe I did this as a coach, maybe not, but it was either every day do half or just do half the days. And a lot of times I just do half the days. I just do the first half of the week and then take it completely off.
Now, especially and when I was working, there's probably more post-collegiately with Stuart. Stuart would say, cut half the load. And he's like, I don't care how. Cut out half the days, fine. Yeah. Cut out half the reps, go for it. Do half the weight, I don't care. He did not care. You just cut out half. And he really kind of left it up to me. How do you want to cut out half the workload? You do it. It does, it's like he wasn't going to sweat the small stuff as far as like that sort of stuff goes.
Yeah. And I figured it out for me that it was, I'm better with just full rest, both mentally and physically. When I rested, I rested. And I don't know if you were, if I don't know if I said this the year I was coaching you, but I don't think it was. I think it was a year or two after, and I was writing out the Christmas workouts. And I said, and at the Christmas, there was always like one more week of hard work and then the rest week. It just always worked out that way when I was coaching. And so one year I wrote on the workouts, so finish the third week as best you can at home. And then on the last day, on that Friday, go to the store and buy batteries for your TV remote, new ones, and then replace the batteries in your remote. And then from that Friday, which was always the week before Christmas, until New Year's Day, wear out the batteries in that remote. I mean, full on rest, and I didn't care. It's probably not the best thing to do, but it made sense to me. And I was much more interested in having people come back fresh and ready to go.
Yeah, I took a more aggressive approach with that one. If it was a break from school, like I just figured that's my time. Yeah. I mean, forget it, man. I'm a walk-on. Yeah. I'm sorry. You want me to train during my time? No. This is mine.
Mr. Ryan, you're here and I'm here. Doesn't that make us our time?
Yeah. And so, yeah. And, so 3 sets of 8 until Christmas. And then after Christmas, or after the New Year's, you'd come back and we'd do same lifts, just we do 4 sets of 6. And you're usually able to bump it up, about 5 to 10% just by going from 3 sets of 8 to 4 sets of 6.
Yeah.
And you do about 4 weeks of that, and then you go down to 5 sets of 5, somewhere in there. And then by that time, you're getting into March. Usually the icebreaker meet's coming right up. Yeah, we just kind of hold on to that 5 sets of 5, I think, for another. I think they call them mesocycles or macrocycles. Those month-long cycles.
That was all of that stuff. The macros and the mint. That was before my time. We just did what made sense. We didn't periodize. We did, but
this is periodization. I mean, we could go ahead and put names to things if we want to.
And so it's important. So the way that we got to that 3 sets of 8 or 4 sets of 6, whatever it was, it's 24 work reps. So you warm up, you do a couple of warm up reps with lightweight, and you do 24 hard reps, whatever they are. The 5's a 5, it's a little bit more.
And then the 3 sets of 8, as Stuart explained it, well, you got 2 winds and 5 turns. So there's 7 turns of the hammer. So you wanted, you're going for muscular endurance. So just put one more rep onto that, the 7 beats in the hammer throw.
Yeah.
And that's where the 8 reps came from.
Right.
And yeah.
And so then as we got into the season, then then at least for me, the lifting, then we paid a little bit of attention. It wasn't just, go in and do that. It always ended up, when you recognize when you're going to throw the best. And for me as an athlete, it always ended up that I threw the best not at the end of the rest week, but the end of the first hard week of the next cycle. So we would kind of time it that way. So we'd make nationals, like indoor nationals. We'd make sure that the rest week wasn't leading in to the national meet. The rest week was the week before, and then we'd work hard going into the nationals.
Yeah, which is totally consistent with a 2 variable overcompensation curve. I mean, it's exactly, I mean,
so says the exercise physiologist.
Yeah.
Boom, done.
Yeah. It's just that, yeah. Anyway. And some other stuff would get kind of tailored in the weight room. I mean, we would kind of, or at least I remember, and my years get mixed up, but we'd switch from like a normal snatch to a close grip snatch. There'd kind of be some other stuff like that makes it a little more event specific kind of in the spring. And we'd switch from going from 5 sets of 5 at some point to where you go 3 sets of 5, 3 sets of 3. Mm-hmm. And then we would go down to like 2 sets of 5 and 3 sets of 3 kind of as we got later in the spring.
And I, as a coach, sometimes, especially early on, the throwers that I inherited, some of the throwers that I inherited didn't trust the system. And I remember, should we say names? Maybe not. I'll tell you this.
Let's not.
So one.
Wait, are they related to me? You can say if they're related to me.
No,
you can.
No. She was a senior though, and she came to the workout one day, and she went through the 4 sets of 6, and she just wasn't getting stronger. And I said, okay, what were you doing at this time last year? And she told me, and I did a little calculation, really loosely, and you can tell that I don't know. Some people will know, well, if you can do this for 6, you should be able to single it. I don't know that stuff, but I had a feeling. And so, all right, well, next hard week, next hard day. So next Monday, we'll max out. And she blew through her PR.
Right.
So it's a little bit like, and we're jumping ahead for the throwing stuff. It's a little bit like the one day every 2 or 3 months when Stuart would have to leave practice early and we'd throw the 4K. Right. And so we have the one throw 4K world championships of the world. And just every once in a while, you got to do something stupid like go lift, go do singles in the weight, or doubles maybe. We never did singles, I don't think. We'd always try to do doubles. So anyway, moderation and everything, including moderation. So you can be super strict all the time, but some people have that craziness that you got to just do something crazy now and again.
Well, and this, the scariest part of training, when you talk about people not trusting the system, the scariest part was those 2 weeks before, your peak competition. You didn't go in the weight room at all.
Yeah.
I mean, that, and I don't know if Stuart did this with you, but Stuart, had me peaking. He says 6 weeks out, you stop squatting. Just stop. You're done.
I think
4 weeks out,
idiosyncratic for you.
Yeah, 4 weeks out, you're done cleaning. No more power cleans. None.
Wow.
And then 2 weeks out, you're done snatching, and you're done lifting for those 2 weeks. And that is a freaky time, because your body's not sore anymore. And as you lived 8-9 months with your body being sore all the time. And as far as like I was concerned, my body didn't exist anymore. Like I didn't know how to conceptualize my existence without pain. And it is freaky. And I would flash gain 10 pounds. And I think you could hear me gaining weight there, like my senior year. Like anyway, And then like you would give us the workout of like, okay, take about 6 throws. And if they're good, then go out in the middle of the field, pretend like you're stretching and just watch the girls run around the track. That was the workout that you prescribed, like leading up into, I can't remember which meet it was Pac-10s or regionals or whatever. And
he's in the barn is the saying.
Yeah. And so I think I had a pretty good reputation, I think, as being the laziest athlete on the U of O team. And I think my teammates, I'm not sure they got it. I don't think they quite understood, because I always, when it came to whatever meet my goal was, I always PR'd or came really close.
Yeah.
You know, and then the dumb thing would be I'd qualify for the next meet or something, and then I'd just tank whatever meet I qualified. Then forget about it. Like, anyway.
Well, and part of that is psychological.
You're totally.
Very strong competitor. So, and you took all year to focus in on the meet that was important.
Well, tremendously lucky, right? Let's not forget that the first time I won Pac-10s, I set a Pac-10 record for the worst throw ever to win. It was the worst throw ever to win Pac-10s.
Wow.
I PR'd by like 10 feet or something. I think it was a great meet. I mean, like I did really well, but it just luck helps a lot.
Yeah.
We left out something really important, I think, is the Wednesday workouts.
Well, that's what I was going to mention. So everybody hated us. I never heard it when I was throwing because I wasn't around the team. But when I was coaching, everybody hated the throwers because Saturday workout was play.
Yeah.
And Saturday, we just went out and played soccer, and then we did some bounds, did the warm up, did some bounds, and then went and played soccer for half an hour, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And everybody, you guys don't even work on Saturday. It's like, how far do you think we're running? And they're starting to stop, and we're running farther than you are. At least the sprinters, way farther than the sprinters and the jumpers. And just
That's
because
pretty fun.
Yeah, pretty much fun.
Yeah. Well, and we would do the same thing on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
I mean, and saying like we did a little bounding stuff, I think minimizes it a lot. And this is where, so the jumps into the sand pit, I thought were really important, because you're standing, you try to do 5 consecutive jumps from the triple jump board. That's 41 feet away. And can you get into the sand pit in 5 consecutive jumps?
Yeah.
And I think that was Stewart's criteria, at least when I first got there. That was his criteria for being on the team. Like if I couldn't do that, then he said, you're going to get hurt if you try this training. If you're not that athletic to take 5 consecutive jumps into the sand pit, then go. It's a big world out there. Go find something different. And so,
as he would say, you might as well take up golf latte.
Yeah. And I put that one to the test a couple of times with my collegiate coaching, and it's true. Like the people who couldn't get into the pit, they just couldn't do the training. I don't think they ever got hurt, but just they couldn't really do it. And so if you came in, if you went through training Monday and Tuesday, and you came in and you couldn't get in the sand pit in 5 jumps, then that was an indicator that you were overtrained and you backed off for Thursday and Friday. It was brilliant. Yeah. I mean, like, and then the vertical med ball tosses where we try to hit the beam underneath the stadiums. And that was another indicator. And so there's a couple indicators on Wednesday that would let us know if you're overtrained or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything about that? So I once counted the amount that the jumps, and I suppose we can go back and count them. But it was, again, you know, I said it like that because it never seemed like a huge deal. But we did as many bounds as any normal workout. They were just really varied. You know, we bound up the stadium stairs. We'd do single legs with single steps. We do double legs with double steps. We'd walk up the stairs. We'd stride up the stairs. 2 stairs was a big reach for some people with short little fat legs like mine. And sometimes it would, you know, so it was easy. So like the strides were easy for the long-legged guys, but they had trouble bounding, and the bounds were easy for me. So it all, and if you have a full team of all 4 throws, it all evens out for the most part, unless you've got really big stud javelin throwers, and they kind of make everybody look silly.
Yeah. And full rest in between reps for the most part, right?
So you go up the stairs and then you walk to the side, you get out of everybody's way, and you walk down the stairs and you wait to go again.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't a big deal. Early on, we did some bench stuff. And I think I did that with you guys early on underneath the grandstands, where you do like ski jumps over a bench, and you'd hop up onto a bench and straddle it back down and jump back up. I tried to get fancy with some plyo boxes for a while. And I think it's really important to note, especially for heavy people, that the deceleration is the hard part. So later on, when I got heavier, when I got bigger, you know, 260-ish, the double jumps on the runway started getting pretty hard on me. And so we kind of stopped doing those if we started getting hurt. As everybody matured. The college kids, no problem, because you know you recover in between eye blinks. Yeah, but as you get older, or as you get as more mature as an athlete, so say you've got a guy that's been throwing for 10 years and he just got to college, you have to take that into consideration. It's not like he's a brand new freshman that's never thrown before. If he's got a history or she's got a history of training, you have to treat them like a more mature athlete. They don't recover as much. They don't get as much out of each little thing, and they don't gain as much out of some of that stuff.
Yeah. And I think, you know, what I liked about the Wednesdays is, like how you're saying, like some people don't buy into the system. It's those little Wednesday challenges. It's the jumps and the bounds, whether they're on the stairs or into the sand pit or playing soccer or overhead shot put throw. Those are the things that really built up confidence in the system, because you could watch those little things increase. And post collegiately, I stopped doing a lot of that stuff. And I think that, you know, that really ate away, I think, a little bit at my confidence when I gave that little stuff up that I think just fell off the radar with our training.
The other thing that I wanted to say about, and it's jumping around a little bit, going back to the very beginning, but the warm-up is also a way to check in daily to say, okay, is my heart rate really high today? Do I feel awkward and uncoordinated? And it's a really nice way. Or can I feel my legs? Can I feel my knees moving? It's a really good way to submaximally check in.
Yeah,
as well.
Well, and like, you know, like you're saying, you know, when you start adding up like how many jumps we actually did, you know, like 3 sets of 5 or 3 sets of 10, or if we're on the stairs or something like that, for all these different jumps, like it adds up. Like when you're saying that, it's like the warm up, just the warm up we do is so intense. And I would tell my college throwers, it's like, we're going to do more work than every other collegiate team that we're going to be competing against in the first 15 minutes of practice.
Yeah.
Like the warm-up was so intense. And it's a it's a tremendous amount of work that covers, like now that I'm going through like, personal training stuff with my students in class. It covers, like, hits every checkbox on a comprehensive workout in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And like when I coach, I spend the first full day just going through the warm-up.
Yeah.
Like I don't even attempt to do anything else. I just go over the warm-up.
Yeah, when Stuart would do clinics, the whole first session was just the warm-up.
Yeah. And should we just talk a little more in detail? The problem is the names. Like talking about exercises is like, I never knew any names for the exercises. And I found that out very awkwardly my first day of being a track coach. I said, all right, guys, we're going to do, I have no idea what this thing's called. I did it for 9 years. Have no idea what this exercise is called.
The thing where you flop around.
Yeah.
So let's finish the big picture.
Oh yeah,
here.
yeah. Let's do.
So
yeah.
Then by the end in the middle of the competition season, then we would drop down. I don't know what you did when you were after college. Then we would drop down to two hard weeks and one easy week, and then right close. So we just used the hard week, easy week ratio to line up the big meet. So if that meant we had to do 2 and 1 and then 2 and 1, or if we had to go 2 and 1 and then 1 and 1 and 1 and 1, depending on wherever that thing hit, then that's how we would play that. But again, nothing really changed except for, then the whole idea, another broad thing that Stuart always used to say was in the fall, it's playing the volume curve and the intensity curve.
Mm-hmm.
So in the fall, the volume's high, the intensity's low, and then, then it does this for the spring. And by the time you're getting ready for the last meets of the year, I mean, I'd feel stupid. I'd just like you going out into the middle of the field and watching the girls. I'd go to the weight room at like a big Grand Prix meet, and the Germans are snatching 140 for triples, and I'm just hopping up some stairs, and I've got a 25-pound plate, and I'm doing some hops and a couple of swings, and that was it. And then I beat them the next day. So, but it's that, I don't know. The hammer's not that heavy.
Yeah. And so let's go now. I think now's a good time so the lifts I remember doing is, and Stuart played around with this a little bit. There's 2 main lifts and some auxiliary twisting lifts and per day. And so on Monday we would do snatch and some sort of split leg, single leg thing, either some sort of lunge or a step up. And that kind of varied from year to year, depending on, like my freshman year, we did these walking lunge skip things. And then it was step ups at some point. Sometimes it's just a lunge. So Monday was snatch and a lunge. Then Tuesday were power cleans and squats. Primarily front squats. We rarely did back squats. And then Wednesday was the active recovery day, where we do some sort of bounding and play a game. And then we just would repeat Monday and Tuesday on Thursday and Friday.
Correct.
Right. And
go ahead.
Go. Well, and then there's auxiliary twisting stuff. Either we do twists with bars or plates.
Russian twists.
Yeah. And
leaning back.
You had that machine.
Twist machine.
Yeah. And so there's some sort of twisting exercise that would go along with that. So I think everyone that's going to be listening is probably pretty familiar with power cleans, snatches, and squats.
Yeah.
Right. So what were the percentages? Let's talk about how heavy we would go during these different phases. We could break, like, I don't know,
So let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
So he changed that on you. So every year, the whole time for me, we lifted heavy the first day. We lifted heavy on Monday and did the snatch and lunge on Tuesday. So he's playing around with it. So his rationale for us was, so we lifted heavy on, we always throw first,
right?
Throw before lift. And then, so we throw on Sunday, and sorry, this is juggling a little bit. We throw light balls on Sunday. Monday was our hard technique work. So it was a 14, 16, 18. And then on Wednesday was the heavy hammer day. The reason that we lifted on Monday and threw heavy on Tuesday was, the theory was that after you lift heavy, then if you threw light balls the day after you lifted heavy, you wouldn't be able to feel it. So that's why we did that. And he changed it for you.
And I think, and so he would talk about this too. And he wanted you guys to leave with the feeling of light lifting and heavy throwing for the rest day. He thought that was really important, that you end on the Tuesday with throwing be the primary stressor of that little half week cycle. And with me, what's that? And so what he said for going light on the Monday is if you throw first and that was your hardest throwing training session of the week was on Monday. We're going to get the most accomplished on Monday. Then a lighter lift after that training session. And then you can get better technique work in on the Tuesday with lighter lifting on the Monday.
Yeah.
And so that.
Did you feel like that worked?
What's that?
Did you feel like that made sense?
Well, I hated lifting, so I that was fine with me. And I really enjoyed, if I'm going to lift heavy, I liked having that rest day afterwards.
Okay.
And so, yeah, and the lighter Monday, heavier Tuesday is more consistent with what I've seen in training methodology since then. But I understand the rationale of wanting throwing to be the primary sensation that you end the cycle with. And it ended up flipping around like that, like you're saying, because we would manipulate the training weeks in season, and a lot of times that would end up naturally happening anyway, more towards the spring, is we can almost flip the week around like that. So I showed our last little thing to my family, and my daughter thought the lumpy butt thing at the end was the funniest thing she's ever heard. You're a huge hit.
All right.
At least in our house.
What is that? That's a 2000s reference. So, okay, getting back to the real world, it was important for us and for Stuart and for us to have some time after throwing to let the throwing settle. We rarely would go from throwing straight to lifting.
Right. Yeah.
Let the neuromuscular system, let that gel.
And it very well could be the reason why Stuart changed it for me is I had less time. So, as collegiate athletes, Stuart's time was limited. We were, I think, breaking NCAA rules for the most, I don't know. And then post-collegiately, I was in grad school. I was in grad school working full-time and doing an internship at the hospital. And so, it just made sense to probably organize it that way.
And this is brings the point of what you said in your email about this was maybe evolved into probably not the only way to get this done, but certainly Stuart looked at all of those factors. And, you know, at the time when we were coming up and we got some of the Russian training stuff, they were working on an 8-day week. And it didn't work for us because we all had jobs.
Right.
Like we couldn't, there was no way that we could run our training life in a different timeline than our real life. And so he just adapted it. He adapted everything we did. That's why we didn't do 3 and 1 and 3 and 1. You know, 3 days throwing, 1 day rest, 3 days throwing, 1 day rest. It was 3 days throwing, 1 day rest, 2 days throwing, 1 day rest, because there's only 7 days in the week.
Right.
So yeah, it's an adaptation to every part of the system, every part of your life and every part of the training.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes me think like, and so in that little email, I think you're right. I think there's probably a few basic principles and, you know, many ways to achieve each one of those principles. But once you start putting on all the different criteria, the constraints that we have to operate under, there's probably there really probably is very few ways to train effectively. You know, I said in the email, and I love thinking about this, like the eye has evolved according to Richard Dawkins, one of my intellectual heroes. The eye has evolved some stupid amount of times separately, independently. Like I think it's like 28 different times throughout evolutionary history, the eye has evolved. So there's something about photons that are really important for scanning our environment, and the eye is probably the best way of doing it. That we don't see a whole lot of ways for scanning for photons that doesn't involve an eye.
Yeah.
And so I mean, and there's fun theories about evolution where it's like, if we meet intelligent life on other planets, it very well could be bipedal animals with axial skeletons. And just because maybe there's not that many ways to design or to evolve intelligent life. And so I kind of think that's where I lean towards training programs, is that there's probably very few ways to actually accomplish it. I like theoretically you might be able to go off in crazy directions.
Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting to see what happens with this whole, these conversations and input that we get, and test those ideas.
Yeah. And if I edit this correctly, there should be an email. I'm just gonna put it in the whole time. So there should be email below us right now.
So one of the, we'll get in. Yeah. I have what I feel like is a really clear example of 2 ways to do one thing, but we'll get into that later because we're talking about the training year.
Yeah. We haven't talked percentage. Are we ready to talk percentages?
I think if we can, you're going to be doing that because I just got in and lifted more than everybody else in the room.
Fuck you.
And luckily I had reasonable training partners, because if there would have been anybody really strong, I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's keep in mind, as I say that, let's keep in mind, I've said this many times, that my best clean was the guys that I was competing against best snatch. I cleaned 160, and some of these guys snatched 160. Yuri Tam had 140 kilo narrow grip snatch.
Wow. Yeah, we're talking kilos here in this. So
yeah.
Okay. So this is how Stuart broke it down for me. so you do circuits, you work your way up to it's somewhere between 6 and 10. And so once you start at 3 sets of 8, first of all, we never maxed to get, we never tested to see what our max was. It was all based off of a theoretical max, which I should be able to squat double my body weight for 1 rep, and should be able to power clean body weight and a half for 1 rep, and snatch my body weight for 1 rep.
Right. Right.
And we just operate off those theoretical maxes, and we never tested to find out what the maxes were. And the idea was like, well, if you can do that, then you're plenty strong to throw as far as you want to throw.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it's important to say that I never did that.
You never did what?
I never got to those levels in the weight room.
Well, yeah, no. So, but neither did I, because we never did a 1 rep max. So we always worked on percentages of that. And so when I went at 3 sets of 8, we started at 50% of my theoretical max. So I was squatting my body weight, snatching 3/4 my body, cleaning 3/4 my body weight, and snatching half my body weight.
Wow.
Like that has to be the lightest lifting any collegiate thrower in the country does to start with. Right. I mean, and we would just work it up. And so Stuart just said, well, just increase 10% a week, or 10% a month.
Yeah.
And so I just go up 2.5% every week. 3% for the first 3 weeks, and then cut it in half.
Yeah.
It was just, I don't know, it's easy. It was just easy to remember. And so 4 sets of 6 was around 70%. 5 sets of 5 was around 80%. And then if I got up to, and I'd get up to 90% working on the reps of 3 for the like 2 sets of 5 and 3 sets of 3, I would be able to get up to 90%. And once I hit that, I was done with that lift. Like, I'd hit 90% of my squats 6 weeks before the big meet, and I was done squatting.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I think that's pretty reasonable lifting. Like that's not crazy stuff. It was really hard for me.
Right.
But
but you're not naturally a really strong guy. You're not one of these guys that can come in and you've got your talents lie elsewhere. So
fair. That's fair.
And I wasn't that strong in the weight room. I mean, I was okay. But certainly those percentages rang true for me as well. And probably about that. I have to think about it. I have to do some math. Yeah, no, I lied. Yeah, I was doing 495 for a front squat but to a bench for 4. So yeah, I guess I doubled. I guess I could say that I doubled my body weight.
Well, but those are half front squats though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's still within reason.
90 degrees.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, yeah. I mean, we're Stuart was saying like a full front squat should be double your body weight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's totally, again, cut out half the workload. If you're going to cut out half the workload if you're cutting down the range of motion of your lift by half, will make sense that you would increase the intensity, right?
There you go.
I mean, I think that's still consistent.
So yeah, and we weren't nearly. I can't remember being as scientific. So the seat of the pants thing was you come in and you kind of through the years you learned your working level, where to start, and then we would always just go up some increment and we'd go up on a Monday and on a Tuesday, and then we'd stay there for the Thursday, Friday, and theoretically those were the easier days because we'd already bumped up. It was not a new level again.
Right.
And then we'd bump up the next Monday. And if we had to drop down based on, the way we felt on Wednesday or whatever, then but we tried not to drop down on the Thursday and Friday. We tried to do the same weight, but it always seemed easier.
It did what? Yeah, it always was. Well, and you know, the reason why I would probably, and it was a little bit more calculating about it, is one, I didn't have training partners.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, because James March wasn't, I guess I just mentioned it, but so James wasn't, when I was in college, before you got there, James was off training someplace else and I was training with Stuart.
Uh-huh.
And then afterwards, like James Parker and Koji would come in, and Lori would come in periodically. But other than that, I didn't have training partners. So I didn't have a group to kind of, I didn't have people to train with, groups of people to train with. And which meant I was the only one with Stuart at lunch. You know, like it was just me and Stuart. And so, yeah, he would just talk, I think, just more in depth.
Yeah.
About stuff like that.
That's golden. That's really good.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. So that's, and let's be clear and fair that we said at the start that the lifting was really just, it wasn't important other than to get to a certain level of strength. It wasn't the focus of our training.
You have to be
lots of ways. What?
We have to be strong enough to do the technique.
Yeah. And there's lots of ways to get really strong. There's some people out there that are really good at it, and that just wasn't part of our stuff. So, you know, please don't come at us with, well, if you just did chain squats. Yes, I know. There's lots of stuff out there that sometimes part of me wishes that I would have had some of that. But we were focusing on other stuff. It's like people talk to me about my left leg and how I needed to drive my knee up with dorsiflexion and have more sprint mechanics. And I would have been faster around the ring, but we were just too busy worrying about using the ball. So, you know, yeah, then that's part of the other, you know, some of the boxes under the curve are bigger for some people, and some of them, that same box can be smaller, and you can achieve the same result.
Yeah. Okay. But here's the advantage of this is like Stuart simplified absolutely everything he could simplify. Yeah. I mean, it was the simplest he can make it.
Except for the wines.
Well, no, I want the training. The training was
right.
And so following that format, like when I was coaching at Western Oregon, I was able to coach shot put, discus, javelin, hammer when I was there for 4 days a week for 3 hours a day. And I was teaching, going to grad school, and then coaching at Western, and coached conference champions and All-Americans. Like, but there is value in keeping it simple and not sweating the small stuff. Like and the vast majority of track athletes are at schools with one throws coach that also probably has to drive the bus too or something. You know, it's like the vast majority of track coaches and track athletes are working in imperfect situations. You don't have Jimmy Radcliffe or a phenomenal strength training coach to just send your athletes to, and you don't have to worry about them, and you just got to focus on the technique. You know, and so if systemically, if we want to develop good hammer throwers as a country, I think we got to keep it simple.
Well, and the other way to look at it for me and what we're trying to do is, if we get through this episode, it's going to probably end up being more than one. Then we can do what you and I experienced as throwers, and we can talk. We can talk about the things that were important in our training system, and that's the technique and the ways to make the hammer do what you want it to do. And if we can get to that point and and make that the focus. And I felt this as a coach, and I think I still believe it, that yeah, if you're really good at getting strong, go ahead. You know, if you're doing the things that we talk about and you get strong, great, good for you. There is a danger of getting too strong. It's a real danger.
Well, or you know, I even think there's a cost to time. Like athletes only have a limited amount of time. I mean, they have to apparently play video games and eat M&Ms. Like I that's a significant portion of my psyche was dedicated to that. But no, I mean, there's limited amounts of time in the day. And so how much time do you actually want them in the weight room versus out throwing? Because those are real choices you have to make.
Yeah. And there are programs that get people strong and spend less time in the weight room.
Sure.
So,
and there's probably tips and tricks. That's probably true.
We're not, and we're not here. We're here to talk about what was that? The truth. What's the thing you said last year?
I think this counts as we're giving an oral history.
Truth
truth hygiene. Truth hygiene. Yeah.
So yeah, we're talking about what we know.
Yeah. Yeah. And so or as I said in the email, we're dissecting an eyeball.
Yeah.
And so yeah. And so should we talk about, like, in general, like throwing the hammer? We won't get into specific details. Like, for example, in the fall, I remember we do throw 14s and 16s for hammers, 14-pound hammers and 16-pound hammers. And it was about 20 throws at the start of the fall. For me.
Okay. Why don't you go through your stuff?
Okay.
I think it's
the goal was to get up to 30 throws after Christmas, right? That should be the high volume. And so we would throw 14s and 16s and then puds after that, which puds are just heavy kettlebell type things.
Yeah,
what's that?
It's a long kettlebell.
Yeah, that'd be like on Monday. And then on Tuesday, we'd throw 16s and 18s.
Okay.
Or something like that. And then, or we'd throw weight and 16.
Okay.
At some point in the fall there. And then during the winter time, after the new year, we kind of go back and forth. We'd usually transition between, we'd throw weight, 10 throws of weight, 16s and 18s, or we'd throw 30 throws of like 10 16s, 10 18s, then go back to 10 16s. Or that would kind of bounce around. The weights of the hammers weren't as consistent for me. Okay. I just know I was coming in one day, and we'd figured out kind of at the beginning of each phase, you know, so we'd say like, all right, Tuesdays and Fridays are weights and 16s, and then Monday and Thursday is going to be whatever we were doing. But he was pretty insistent, no more than 30 throws. And the days we would throw weight, we wouldn't throw puds. If we didn't throw weight that day, then we'd throw puds. My first year at Oregon as a walk-on, he said it was 2 throws a day. And so if I threw, you throw like hammer and shot. And if I didn't really throw disc at all. So then we throw hammer shot one day and then hammer puds the next day. That's kind of how that.
Wow. Yeah, that was a little different for me.
Yeah.
So ours, much like the lifting, ours stayed more simple. So early on, when I first got here, it was 12 and 14s on Sunday. That was the fun day. And he almost didn't coach that day. Yeah. Almost. First year, maybe he didn't. And then it started, and that was really kind of refreshing because then you just go out and throw. Monday was 14, 16, 18, and 15 throws of each. The only thing that varied on that was, the first year we just threw until he said stop. We had 60 throw days that first year. It was kind of brutal. But after that, it kind of got a little standardized. 14, 16, 18. The only thing that varied was, did we alternate, go 14, 16, 18, 14, 16, 18, or did we go 14, 14, 14, 14, 14, 16, 16, 18, 18, 18, 18.
Ah, okay.
Right. Or we'd switch them. We'd go heavy to light. We'd start out light to heavy. Towards the end of the year, we'd go heavy to light. And then Tuesday, we did the weight for 10 to 15 throws, just like you. And then the long ball, either a long 18 or a meter long 20. And every once in a while, we did a long 20. But he didn't like that one much because it kind of is hard not to drag that ball.
Yeah.
And I think that we threw PUDs on the heavy day. Maybe some of my old training partners can call me.
Well, I think it's important to say, notice how easy it is for us to say what our lifting was. Right. And we both kind of agree, like lifting was easy to remember. Throwing, like, I really felt like I was a lab rat with hammers, weights of hammers. Like, so let's do. I mean, with the hammers, he kind of stepped into his mad scientist phase a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think it is a little bit more, but I can tell you for sure, I never did a long 20. I never did a long 18. He was into short 18s.
Wow.
When I was there. And
yeah, I remember reading something, and he had some study, and you can't go along with the heavy ball. It has to apply to the real throw.
Yeah.
It always came back to, how does it relate to the 16?
That's right. And so that's why he wanted to
far out of the way. What?
Yeah, that's why he wanted to shorten the 18.
Yeah.
And so he wanted it to be a heavier ball, but the same speed. Right. But the 14, he wanted to keep the same length because he wanted to find a different gear.
Right.
Like he wanted to get more speed. We never threw 12s. 14 was as light as I went.
Well, we cheated. Well, first of all, we stopped doing the 12-14 on Sunday, went to 14-16, which was a bummer. But we had one ball called the Magic Ball, and it was this old brass beat up thing that had been it was just all misshapen and weird. And I thought it was a 6K. And it went really, really far. Of course, this is the magical thinking, right? That sometimes you don't pay attention to stuff. And I remember Judd coming in, and I was just bombing this thing. Well, how far did that go? It's like, I don't know. It would always drive him nuts because he was a really, really specific trainer. He would measure every practice. He knew exactly how far every ball was going. And so he'd come in and go, how far are you throwing the 16? It's like, oh, well, see that double mound of grass out there just to the right? Yeah, I'm hitting that right now. And yeah, but this Magic Ball, it goes way farther. It goes clear out to those row of tall grass. And it would just drive him nuts. And so I thought I was throwing the 6K like a mile, and come to find out it was like 11.5 pounds. And it was it was my light ball. So I was throwing like an 11.5, 14, 18 or 16, 18 for a while, but it doesn't matter.
Nice. But yeah, and we rarely went over 30 throws. Like it was, I mean, he really tried to cap it at 30
no, we do. So yeah, so it was 20 on Sunday, 45 on Monday, 30 on Tuesday. And then of course, Monday and Tuesday are always the same as Thursday and Friday. Yeah. Unless you have a meet. So when I was coaching at Western and at Pacific, I just calculated out how many throws we could possibly do. And this is how I figured out. It's like we got 90 minutes for practice, not including the lifting. Because lifting, same thing. I'd say you guys can, I teach them how to lift and say,
take a break, get something to eat, then come back and lift.
Yeah.
Was kind of my thing. So you got 90 minutes from start of warm-ups to the end of practice. After that, it's diminishing returns. 15 minutes for warm-up, another 10 minutes to get your shoes on and hammers and that sort of stuff. So you got about an hour to throw. Well, creatine phosphate regenerates 100% after 2 to 3 minutes. So, yeah. And so you want to spend 2 to 3 minutes in between bouts of throws. And I think about 2 throws at a time. You bring 2 hammers into the ring, throw twice. Each throw lasts about like 8 seconds or something.
Yeah, total. I mean, walking in and doing the winds.
Yeah. And so I figured 2 throws with 2 minutes rest is as fast as we can go. Right. And so, and so that's it. It's 30 throws. That's max that you can do in that hour of time. And then it also sets the limit for how many people you can have at practice. Right. And it's about 6 athletes at practice. It's about as fast as you can get 30 throws in an hour for everybody.
Yeah.
Given one ring.
That's why you're still coaching. The way I did it is I made sure that I, at least at one practice a day, I'd have the two longest throwers throwing at the same time, and only them, because then by the time this, the first one would throw one throw, and then the second one would throw a throw, and then the first one would throw a second throw, and the second one would throw a second throw. So the first one would throw a second throw and start taking off to get her hammers, and then the second one would throw and she'd take off. And in that time when they were both in the field, if they were throwing far enough, I could actually take a little nap in between rounds. And they'd learn to bounce the hammer on the concrete as they walked in. So I was ready for the next throw.
There you go. That's
I probably shouldn't say that out loud in public for,
I think Stuart did the same thing my first year there. I
was doing a lot as a coach. I was really busy.
Oh man, as a coach though, it's hard to pay attention sometimes. I'd just be like, same thing as the last 6 throws. I like try something new. I'm out. I don't know what to tell you. Like make a new mistake, please. I'm getting bored. Yeah. And so anyway, I mean, so I would actually talk to my athletes about that at the beginning of the season, say like, hey, here's the deal. If we're going to get them to training in, this is how practice has to work. It's got to be boom, 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 boom. I'm not going to coach you a lot in the ring. I'm giving you one thing, and then you got to be out, or else, none of us is going to get any work in. We've got to get this volume of training in.
Yeah.
And then
next throw, you have to be waiting at the edge of the ring.
Yes.
At the edge of the cage. You can't be back here getting your hammer. You have to have your hammer standing right there, out of harm's way, ready to walk around the gate.
Yes.
You have to do that.
Yeah. Or else we're not going to get anything done. And at the beginning of the season, it's less than 30 throws because it takes longer to get through throws. You have to teach them all that sort of stuff. And then they're going to screw up the winds. And then, they're at some point they're so bad that they can't really throw, and it takes, just takes longer.
Yeah.
But by the winter time, you got to get towards 30 throws.
You had it down.
What's that?
You had it down.
Well, so I started my collegiate coaching. Like I said, I had 3 kids, a failing marriage. I was coaching full time.
Oh, that's not funny.
It's funny now, or as I was teaching full time, going to graduate school for my master's in teaching, and doing a graduate assistant coaching gig. I had no time. I wasn't sleeping. Oh, my 3 kids, they were all under the age of 4. I mean, that's how we started my collegiate coaching career. And yeah, it was just, I had to be that efficient. And so.
Okay. So what have we covered? We've covered the throws, and then of course, everything lightens up and gets more intense as you go on. into the competition season.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about
18s for me were done by spring break.
So we quit throwing the weight right after indoors.
Yeah.
And we would still throw some 18s, I think. We might shorten it up to a meter. But I think that we still threw 18s. I remember throwing 70. I think it was 70 with the 18 coming into meets. And then just over 200. I think 210 with meter long 20. I think it's.
Yeah, and it really could have been, that's where Stuart, I think, would also individualize things for athletes too. I was constantly trying to get faster, like I was painfully slow, and so he's always trying to find a different, like my 16s and 14s weren't too far apart. Like there wasn't a big difference between my 16 and 14. So the 14 was always trying to improve that, and that's probably different. And I think that's where Stuart would probably change things for individual athletes.
Yeah, and again, with a kind of a non-scientific general idea, we always felt like in the fall and the winter, the heavy balls were pushing the 16 up, and then in the spring, the light ball would pull it up.
Oh yeah,
and it doesn't make any sense when you say it, but that was kind of the sense that we were getting. Is get all this, and you think about it, Stuart would always talk about, getting a car. If you're pushing a car, you got to push really, really hard to start it. And then once you get it moving, then you can back off and you don't have to push as hard.
Yeah.
So early on with the heavy lifting, tons of volume, and with the PUDs and everything else, you're shoving this whole system. Or you can look at it like this. You're pushing the whole system up from the bottom, and then by the time you get to the meets and the haze in the barn, you're just trying to suck it up with a light ball. And yeah, so that's what it feels like to throw 100 meters. That's awesome.
Well, and then the idea was too. It's like whatever you're throwing with the 14, that's what the 16 is going to feel like in the meet.
Right.
I'm just the adrenaline of just putting on a uniform makes a 16 feel like a 14.
Yeah.
So, and the feeling of throwing an 18 is, I never in a meet, I never felt like, ooh, that one felt just like the 18. Like I've never thought that. And so, but I have thought like that felt like a 14. And so that's kind of an intuitive maybe spin on it. Go ahead.
No, mentally, now I'll get into that later. Maybe I've already said it in the last one, but go ahead.
So the only thing I don't think we've mentioned was, drills. Like what sort of like hammer drills? Like, cause Stuart always start off with like 6 reps of drills for me.
Really?
And so I don't know and there's like, beginning it's like 6 count drills, and he'd start every season doing the basic 6 count drill every time, and then from the where you step around in a circle 6 times, or you put your foot down right where it's supposed to land after each throw.
We called it 2-ball drill.
Sure.
You got a hammer in each hand, and but then you drill down, and we didn't start that way. We didn't start with a 6 count, and a couple of years into it, we figured that out, or he figured it out.
Yeah, I figured that. Yeah, it was. Yeah, we did a lot of those. And then so that would turn into walk rounds where you start momentum in the hammer without winding it. You just walk around with the hammer and just go through the turns.
Yeah.
And then different variations that we do with right hand, left hand, two hammers together out at 40. And just different variations of that so we'd always do some sort of drill like that before we started taking our full throws. I think that's the only thing we haven't mentioned.
And we drill more in the fall, obviously, and it would it would phase out. And
Yeah,
sometimes, yeah, and it was capricious a little bit. Sometimes we'd come in. I remember something happened. I must have had a bad meet in the weight or something, and drug the weight around, and so we ended up doing walk-arounds with the weight, with the ball on the ground the whole way around, and do 2 or 3 of those, and then start throwing and gradually sit back. It's a little bit like, you know, the belt or the wrench, you know, or more like, I'll give you something to cry, but you want to bend forward, so go bend forward then, punk. Here's, you go bend, you know, bend forward as far as you can. And we talked about it earlier, super compensation. I think we're stopping here. This is going to get edited out. So that's a secret about Adam. Don't tell anybody that I said it.
Kids are knocking on the door and then running away. Little scamps.
We're probably coming to the end of this one.
Yeah, I think so. I think we covered kind of all the aspects. And it was, other than that, just going out to lunch after.
Yeah.
After training was always really important.
Yeah.
Lance, this is fun. This is good. This is good episode 2.
I hope so. I hope people like it. I liked it.
Yeah.
I got to wear my you know, beat up New York Athletic. This is the last real sweatshirt I wore when I was training, and I still have it.
Wait, so there is something that I realized the other day that I needed to ask you about, because when we went and had breakfast the other day, you were wearing your USA Olympic sweatshirt.
Oh, the blue one?
Yeah. Have you?
That's a good one.
So you were competing for 19 years, went to 4 Olympics, and you were coaching at Oregon for like 7 or 8. Have you bought clothes ever?
No, man. My wardrobe is free. That's my what do you call it? My style.
I mean, I think that is an underappreciated part of being an Olympian. You don't have to buy clothes again.
Yeah, like, but you don't want to wear them around all the time.
Why not?
What, you want me to wear my medal too?
Yeah.
I'm a silver medalist in the Olympics.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. I mean, I would just go buy one. Like, if you have extras, you can give them to me and I'll wear it around. Like,
buy a
that's
medal?
fine. What's that?
Buy a medal?
Yeah. Or I was thinking more sweatshirts. I think that's more my price range.
Yeah, next time you're here, we'll go down in the basement. We can go shopping.
No, that would feel a little weird.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, but that's because I didn't actually go to the Olympics. You've actually been, like, I feel like an 88 today.
But here's the thing: a lot of them don't say, you know, Olympics. Some of them do, you know, U.S. Olympic team. Mm-hmm. But some of them just say USA. You know, you're just back in the country.
Yeah, yeah. You're just being patriotic. No, I think it's great. I just don't think. I think kids need to train harder because you don't have to buy clothes at all.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's I mean, there's motivation out there that people didn't think about.
Yeah, you save some money later on.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. See you next time, Lance.
But we digress. See ya.